Folsom before I married.
Okay, this is March 8th, 1984. This
Yes.
is Joe Todd, an interview with Allie Statham.
Yes.
Okay. And ma'am, where were you born?
2.5 miles south of Milton, Indian Territory.
Milton. Where is Milton?
Well, it's up it's out southeast of Bocosha, about 8 miles.
Okay. And when's your birthday?
18th of April in 1894.
1894. Who is your father?
Albert Peter Folsom.
Albert Folsom. Who is your mother?
Susie K. Brashers. Brashers. So many spells that just opposite all kind of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I have had 2 strokes, the reason I can't talk any better than I'm doing, so
I'm doing
if
fine.
you don't understand, just tell me so.
You're doing fine. Were both your parents from Indian Territory?
Yes.
Of course, Albert Folsom. Have you heard any stories of the Trail of Tears removal from Mississippi here?
No, I never have heard the real story. I've just heard people talk that have been to and seen the Trail of Tears at Tahlequah.
Mm-hmm. Are you related to Daniel Folsom and David Folsom?
Yes.
What's your relationship to them?
Well, Colonel David Folsom was my 3rd grandfather. My grandfather was Albert Key Folsom. And his father was Nathaniel Folsom. Then comes in Colonel David.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me a little bit of history in the Folsom family? Just what you've heard about them.
Well, our daddy's father was a deputy sheriff of Indian Territory between Fort Smith and Indian Territory.
Mm-hmm. What was his name?
Albert Key Folsom.
Same as your father?
No, my father's Albert Peter now.
Albert Peter.
And Albert Key is my grandfather, his father.
Albert T. Folsom. And he was a deputy sheriff?
Yes.
Did he work
way
under...
back in Indian Territory time.
Did he work under Isaac Parker?
Well, he worked during Isaac Parker's time, I know that. But I don't know whether he was under him or not.
Okay.
And they lived over here at Scuttleville, just out of Spiro.
Did you know him? Albert T. Folsom?
No. No, I'm not quite that far back.
Yeah. And what did your father say about him? Did your father talk about any stories that he told?
No, he didn't. Papa was just a young boy whenever grandfather died. Was killed, rather.
Where was he killed?
On the line between Arkansas and Indian Territory. Somebody shot him, and they think Green McCurtain did it. Green McCurtain wanted him to do something that wasn't right, and grandfather wouldn't do it, so he sneakily shot him, is what they say. And
Well,
they're both buried over at Scuttleville Cemetery.
when was he killed?
Oh my goodness. I know I've heard.
Do you have any stories of Daniel Folsom or David Folsom?
What about the David you're talking about? Do
This
you
is
know?
Colonel David Folsom.
Well, Colonel David was my great-grandfather's father.
Mm-hmm.
And he was killed in the Civil War. They were both young men whenever they went to war, and they were both young when they were killed.
Which
But I
battle
don't
were
know
they?
much about it. None of them were just hearsay from people.
Mm-hmm. Which battle were they killed in? Do you know?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
What kind of work did your father do?
He was a farmer and a ranchman. Had 1,600 acres of land. Just raised everything imaginable and had all kind of stock.
Mm-hmm. What did you do in the ranch as a little girl? What kind of chores?
What, my daddy?
No, you.
Oh my goodness, we done everything a man done. We worked in the field. We went to school all the time, but we come home, we knew what we had to do. We dressed and went to the field. Mom always had a sandwich and a glass of milk or what we wanted. Then to the field we went and worked. We chopped cotton and corn. We gathered cotton, pulled corn, helped work in the hail, milk cattle, churn,
You ever
take
do
care
any
of
plowing?
chickens. Do what?
You ever do any plowing?
Did you say if you ever make any flour?
No, did you plow?
Yes, and I could harrow too.
Did
I
you plow?
never-
Go ahead.
Yes, I could plow and I could harrow. Preach your horses to harrow. Put 2 or 3 boards on there and put a bunch of kids on it, to hold the dirt down. Go on and harrow. We had lots of fun. That was work.
Mm-hmm. Did you plow with horses or mules?
Horses. In Papa's last years, he bought a team of mules, but before that, he always had horses.
Which were better to plow with, horses or mules?
Oh, horses.
How come?
Well, it just seemed like they understand you better, and they're not so frisky, and I don't know. They're just better to drive to a wagon or anything than a mule, I think.
Mm-hmm. How much cotton could you pick in a day?
Not very much. I might matter. Maybe 200 or 300 pounds all day long. Pitiful. I never could pick cotton. I never could pick up potatoes. That's 2 I couldn't do.
You ever pull bowls?
Goodness, yes. Whew. There was nothing we couldn't do.
Mm-hmm. Where was the gin located?
Well, I'll tell you, there wasn't very many gins then. And I can remember when I was 15 years old. But before that, I guess the nearest gin, I don't know. I guess Fort Smith was the nearest gin we had. I know the farmers would help each other take the cotton to the gins to have it taken care of. And there'd be 20 to 30 wagons go. Just have 3 or 4 just piled as high as the sideboard was allowed to use. And it'd take 2 or 3 days to go there and get them all ginned up and come back home. Then they'd buy groceries and buy clothes and shoes and everything we needed. Things were scarce them days. But
Where was your allotment?
well, I had some in Paul's Valley, Oklahoma, way off out west, in the Panhandle. And then Papa had us all about 60 acres close to home.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when the Dawes Commission came through doing the surveys?
Yes, I remember, but I don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy worked with them a lot, and other people would. They'd leave home with a suitcase, dressed to go, and they walked. Somebody'd be driving a wagon, pick them all up and take them all together, and they'd be gone maybe 3 or 4 days, and then they'd come back home, put everybody to work on the farm like he wanted them to, and go again.
What did your father do with the Dawes Commission?
He was the youngest senator during the Indian Territory time. He began when he was 21 years old. And until the Indian Territory became the state of Oklahoma, that was back in 1907, where he worked with that's the younger senator.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember Statehood Day?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about that day.
Well, I didn't know see anything that was done. It might have been at some place, big place, maybe at Guthrie or wherever they had their big meetings, but we never did go to very many of them. We didn't have time.
Were the people around here for or against statehood?
Well, there's a lot of them against it, more so. My daddy was against it.
Mm-hmm.
He said we never would have the rights. We Choctaws would never have the rights that we had while it was the Indian Territory. Mm-hmm. And the longer, the worse it would get. Well, he was right about it. It's just getting harder and harder all the time.
Did your father ever talk about the Sequoia Convention?
No.
That was held in Muskogee to make Indian Territory the state of Sequoia. You speak Choctaw?
No. Papa didn't want us to learn.
How come?
We went to, he said it was just too much trouble trying to speak both of them. He didn't care for it anyway. He could speak it a little bit, but not very much. When I went to Tuskahoma to school, Choctaw girls' school, I never was so scared in my life. I just shake now when I think about it. There was just so many full-blood Indians there. Boy, they were just blacker than anybody you ever seen. I tell them today I don't believe it's all just Indian. They were mixed with this other race. I never seen anybody so black. Curless hair, they had the beautifulest hair you ever seen. Anybody that loved curls, you know. And I cried and I cried and I cried because I was up there with them black kids. The two Overstreet girls from Callington went up on the train as we did, and Papa always went with us. And Leela seen me a-crying. She said, "Honey, what are you crying for?" I said, "Oh, I just don't like the looks of people up here. I'm afraid of them." And she said, "Well, you're not going to be with them. You're going to stay with me and Maggie. We're going to have room together." Well, I still didn't satisfy me. That 2 or 3 weeks, I just couldn't hardly stand it. Wrote Mom a letter, you know, and told her about it. But our superintendent wouldn't let her go out of there if he didn't like it. And there's lots of them didn't go out. So I had to stay there with all them black Indians. They had the itch. They had lice in their head. They were dirty, just anything come along. Now they had it. Just imagine 400 kids together like that.
There were 400 kids at school?
Oh yeah, we had big school, nice school. But the building burned down. I don't know just how that building burned.
Did it burn while you were there?
No, well, yeah, I had gone home. I had eye trouble and Papa come and got me. And I was in the hospital at Fort Smith when the school bill burned. I never did get to go back.
What, did you live in the dorm there, the dormitory?
Yes. Yes, we all lived in the dormitory.
How many girls to a room?
Well, there was 4 in my room. Some of them had 8 girls. Some of them had 6. Some of them had 2. Mm-hmm. But downstairs in the basement, just a great big basement, I don't remember how many, but must have been 25 or 30 beds. Most of the little children would sleep down there. But we all took upstairs. There was a basement in our schoolroom, superintendent's bedrooming house. Everybody stayed in it. And the superintendent was the only man on that place until the men got the cattle milked, and then they come and brought the milk to the school.
What was his name, the superintendent?
Cecil Gladney, Gladney.
What kind of man was he?
Well, he was a white man, and he was a good man. He tried to be a father and a very dear friend to all of us, and he was. And they had one little baby boy. And I believe one of his sisters was a matron, helped take care of us sick folks. Oh, it was a wonderful school, but just the idea of being there and away from home.
How many stories did the dormitory have?
4.
4. Which floor were you on?
The 3rd.
3rd.
Mm-hmm.
How was the room decorated that you stayed in? Like the beds, the closets?
Yes, we had one closet, 2 beds, 2 large beds. Had a large library table, 4 chairs. Of course, we all had a trunk or suitcases. Didn't have no rugs. They didn't use things them days. We had pretty white wood floors.
How large was the room?
Oh, I guess it's about 12 by 14 or something like that. The big room. They all were big.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you take your meals?
In the dining room there. The dining room and kitchen is on the bottom floor.
In the basement?
Yes. And superintendent's office was down there, and our sewing room was there. And the medical center was down there.
When was that school opened?
Okay, I don't know. I guess I did know one time, but I don't know.
What were your duties there besides going to class?
Oh, we had to learn to sew. We had to learn to mop, cook, wash and iron, embroidery, clean yards, work in little garden space we'd all have. Just teaching us, learning us how to do things. Mm-hmm. And we helped take care of the sick. Some of them got sick. Why, we all had a job now, and maybe a couple hours, and then another one come on, a couple hours. Shipped it all around to us.
Mm-hmm. How did you do the laundry there at the school?
Well, we had 18 old-time wooden wash tubs. And I believe these motors came from Wheelock, Oklahoma. That's where another big school was. And they put motors in those wash tubs and something to make it spin, and done our washing in those tubs. But we had to wrench, just in a common tub. Mm-hmm. Now, it was a job, believe me. Oh, we had to wash about 3 times a week.
So you had washing machines then?
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Such as they were.
Yeah. What year did you go to Tuskahoma?
I don't know if that's been so long ago, but I've got sense enough to think about it or not. But I was just 16 years old. I'll be 90 in April. So you know it was a long time ago.
About 1910?
Think so.
How big was the school, the campus, the grounds?
8 acres.
8 acres?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Had some of the prettiest big old oak trees on it and pine trees.
Anything?
Oh, we played all kind of ball and all kind of games. And once in a great while, they'd let other people come in and we'd have games together, but not much. They were just strictly education school.
Mm-hmm. Did the school close after the building burned?
Yes, yes it did.
When was that?
Well, I believe that building burned in 18. I know my youngest boy was born in 20. Well, he was just right around 18 or 20 because he was just a little baby when I found out it was burned.
Mm-hmm.
One of the girls that went to school there bought the land and built her a big nice home on it. Annie Lewis.
Is there anything left of the old school?
Not a thing in the world. We had 4 big old cisterns where we kept watering. Had to pump the water out, of course.
Was that the water supply for the school? The cisterns?
Yes.
Where'd you get your food? Did you raise it?
Yeah, they raised some. Otherwise, well, they bought it at town just like everybody else did.
How far was Tuskahoma from Jones? Jones Academy.
Oh. Well, I imagine it's about 150 miles.
Okay.
Well, Jones Academy is off up towards McAllister, and Tuskahoma was back down away from Tallahassee, maybe 15 miles, something like that.
Do you have any questions?
You mentioned Annie Lewis. Was she a friend of Jane McCurtain's?
Yes,
Is that the Annie Lewis that became Dr. Anna Lewis?
yes,
Did you know Jane McCurtain?
yes.
History says that she was one of the most powerful women in the Choctaw government. Was she?
Pretty powerful, yes, she was.
Did she learn most of it from Jackson?
Well, I imagine she did. Seemed like all of them learned it from Jackson.
Do you think Jackson was the most progressive chief over McCurtain and Edmund? Did he do more for the Choctaw people?
Well, I don't know whether he done more, but I know he was graciously in what he done for the Choctaw Indians.
When was he chief? Jackson.
The late 1800s, possibly the very earliest. No, it would have been the late 1800s. Did you know Jane McCurtain?
Jane.
Jane McCurtain, did you know her?
I don't know. We knew that we had so many McCurtains here.
This was Jackson's wife.
I don't think I did.
Did you know Chief Jackson?
I don't believe I did.
This Dr. Lewis. Was she a medical doctor?
Well, I don't know as I'd call her a doctor, but she had taken training in nursing with some doctors. And she might have been one. I just don't remember.
Was she?
I think she was a medical doctor.
Yes, she probably was.
Did you know her?
Yes.
What was she like?
Well, she was a beautiful, good woman and very likable, very pleasant. Loved to sit down and let you know she had confidence in you and was interested in whatever your sickness or trouble was. I don't even remember what become of her when she died. Do you?
No, I don't. What was your meals like at Tuskahoma?
Well, they were good. We had two great big old fat deer women that done our cooking. Now, I wasn't afraid of them. But oh, that bunch of little old black kids, I'll tell you, it just looked like flies flying around.
Now, were they Choctaw freedmen?
Were they what?
Were they Choctaw freedmen?
Yes, yes. Well, we had good meals. We had, I don't think we had pinto beans them days, but we had beans every day of some kind. We had a lot of vegetables, and they killed their own cows. They had a farm out from the academy, and they'd kill a cow about every 2 weeks.
Who worked on the farm? Did the girls work the farm, or?
No. They had some men out there on the farm.
Did you have a uniform to wear?
Well, they furnished our clothes. We could bring some if we wanted to, that is, our underclothes especially. But they furnished our dresses and our shoes and hose. And furnished your nightgown to sleep in. And you could bring some clothes with you, but they'd just as soon you wouldn't. They give you 4 dresses from September to Christmas time. And that much clothes what they give. And then after Christmas you got a new award. And when you graduated from school or when school was out, we all dressed in white. They furnished them. But we helped make them. We had a big sewing room there, and we all helped make, sewed and learn things. Oh, it was wonderful.
Now, the 4 dresses they gave you, were they all alike?
All alike. Yes,
What-
they were.
What
Well,
did they
then-
look like?
White linen.
They white linen?
Yes, they were white linen.
How'd you keep them clean?
Well, we just kept them clean, that was all. We didn't go wild like kids do today. We didn't have a chance. We went to school, and after when school was out, you went to your room, rested 30 minutes. And then some went to the dining room, some went to the kitchen. Others could play and clean up the classrooms for the next day. Oh, there was something to do all the time as well as a little pleasure.
What was your favorite chore at Tuskahoma?
Oh, goodness. Favorite chore. I guess ironing pillowcases. I guess ironing pillowcases. And I used to say, why do you want to iron these for? 2-minute oranges burn up coal. Now we had to use coal, you know, and all, and gas lights. The eye specialist all said that's what made me nearly go blind. I had to study by gas lights. But they didn't seem to hurt me. But I guess maybe they did.
What kind of iron did you use?
Well, just old common irons. Heated them on some kind of stove they had down in the laundry.
How many pillowcases could you iron before it got cold?
Oh my. Before it got cold. Gosh, I don't know, but just imagine 400 people there. Then we had the school teachers and superintendent and his wife. All of them had to be ironed and washed, you see. But we didn't mind it. We were just a great big family, and after we all got acquainted, why, we just loved each other. Wonderful.
What chore did you dislike the most?
Washing dishes. They'd start you washing dishes, and here'd come somebody else. Let her wash some dishes now. Well, I had to walk over the dining room, gather up dishes, and carry them up for them to wash. I didn't like that. That's the only thing we paid for. If we broke a dish, we had to buy another one or pay for it. That's the only thing.
What kind of dishes did you have?
Well, just common white dishes them
Just white
days.
dishes? What about silverware?
Well, most of their silverware had the bone handle on them.
Bone handle?
But they were good. Really, there's a better knife to cut with than what we get today.
How was your... Did you have to pay your own way to Tuskahoma, or did the government pay for your schooling?
Well, the government paid for them, but we always paid our way. Some of them just had to have it done, but we didn't have to.
Tell me about commencement at Tuskahoma.
Well, they took 2 days for it, and all the parents could come that cared to, and close friends. But they had to register when they got there and put out into their name who they were, because the superintendent was very strict with everything and everybody. And when they'd come, well, they'd have to take the music room, sewing room, and one office that superintendent had put up beds for company. And some people brought cots with them, some just brought bedding, slept on the floor downstairs. But we all got along just the same.
You said that your graduation dress was white.
Yes, it was white linen. And they made them 6 gores and just a plain blouse with a little band collar standing up here, lace whipped around that little old collar and on the cuffs.
Now the dresses you wore every day, were they white also?
No, they were blue. There wasn't a navy blue. They all had little flowers in them or little dots or a stripe. And they were made the same way, trimmed in something white.
Did every girl have the same dress?
Yes.
So
sure
you were all dressed alike?
all dressed alike.
Who gave the commencement speech?
Well, I remember the Wheelock principal teacher came down and gave the first one while I was there.
What was his name?
And Wilkerson, I believe. Was it Harry Wilkerson? Well, I know his name was Wilkerson because he had a little boy named Wilkerson. Way back yonder.
He gave the speech at your commencement.
I didn't have one out there.
He did.
When I came home blind, Daddy took me to Fort Smith, and I was in St. Edward's Hospital 4 months, a little better. And then when I got to where I could see, quit wearing all kind of glasses, I rode horseback and went to Bocosha and finished my 4 months.
Where's that?
Well, that's just about 12 miles from here. On the place of going on in the Poto, you turn to the right, where there's four-way roads over yonder.
Is it a boarding school?
No, just a common school. But that was close to school that we had. Well, country picnic. That's where I met him with a bunch of other kids.
How big was the school?
Oh, I guess back them days maybe we might have averaged 200 or 250. Not very many though.
How come your father didn't send you back to,
Well, the doctors told him I couldn't go back and study under gasoline lights.
What year did you get married?
In 1913.
What kind of work did your husband do?
He worked in the store.
They say he wasn't Choctaw?
No.
Do you remember World War One?
Who?
World War One.
Yeah, I had a brother in World War One. And a son-in-law, and brother was ready to go when they declared peace. Had 2 nephews, World War II.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any work for the war effort in the first war?
Well, we knitted and made sweaters and made socks and gloves and things like that.
Mm-hmm. What about Armistice Day?
Oh, well, they just had a great big time, some speakers made.
Where were you living at that time?
At McCurtain.
At McCurtain?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a big celebration at McCurtain?
Pretty good. The binders put on a big one, and that caused the storemen all to quit and take part. They had a pretty good time.
Mm-hmm. What were they doing? What kind of celebrations?
Well, some of the elderly people made talks of the past war and come on up then how this one got started and the beginning of it.
Were you living in McCurtain when they had the big mine disaster?
No, I had a brother that was working there. He was on top of the mine working. We all went up there. It was pitiful, very sad.
What happened in the mine?
Well, I don't know.
Was your brother injured?
Yes, he was blown about 20 foot in the air. And when he hit the ground, he was pretty well beat up.
How many miners were killed in that disaster?
106, I believe. think it was 106.
Mhm.
You all remember hearing anything about it? I believe it was 106.
Did your brother recover?
Oh yes, yes.
So it was a mine explosion then.
Yeah, it was a mine explosion all right, way back in under the ground somewhere, but I don't remember how it started, what caused it.
Did they ever reopen that mine?
No, never did.
What year was that?
Uh, oh, I guess that must have been around about in 15, somewhere way back there, because I had 2 children, a little girl and a little boy. Because I know she had pneumonia. Everybody got to know but me and the children. And they were little. So it must have been that. She was born in 1914. It might have been 16. But it was terrible.
What was the name of that mine?
I bet you've heard just like I have. I'm not thinking about it. It's just a McCurtain coal mine, I guess.
McCurtain coal mine? Excuse me. Did you know Green McCurtain?
Well, I knew Green McCurtain and knew all of them, all the McCurtains. They're distant relatives to my daddy. But I never did care much about them. He said they were haughty disposition people. Now, the old lady McCurtain, she's not been dead very long. Always she was living, she could just tell you everything. Anybody'd want to know.
Did you know David Hartshorn McCurtain?
Yes. His widow's not been dead very long.
How old was she when she died?
You know, I don't know, but now she was an old woman, but well, they're all buried out here at Scuttleville. And she lived out the edge of town. But she'd get up and dress and walk to town, go all over town visiting, have a good time, and enjoy herself. Walk back home again.
I can barely remember her, and she always wore black or dark
Yes,
clothes.
all the time she wore black.
Was that the style, or is that just something that she did?
It's just something she did all the time. It's just her. She said color. I said, that's not no color.
She was a wealthy Choctaw, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. Mm-hmm. She was a good old lady.
I was going to ask you, what does the word Tuskahoma mean?
Yeah, you got me again.
Homa is red.
It means red warrior.
It means what?
Red warrior.
Red warrior, Tuskahoma.
The old council house is about 8 miles from where our school building was. They'd take us over there about once a month. That was all to march in a line over there, just like prisoners. But some of the girls had run off. Yeah, Maggie Overstreet lived over here at Callington. She run off nearly every time we get on a pleasure trip. And her daddy nearly beat her to death for doing it, but didn't do no good. Send her right back.
Did you ever run off?
No, sir.
Maggie Overstreet's home. It's still standing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Didn't they give it to the Historical Society, or wasn't the intentions to give it to
Well,
them?
it was their intentions to do so, but I don't know for sure that they did. Now, we have Maud Overstreet down here in the nurse home. She's Perry Overstreet's mother. But, let's see. I believe it was Miss Hopper told me that the old home was practically furnished and everything just like it was when Maggie died. Margaret was her real name. We called her Maggie. Her clothes hanging on the closet and everything just like it was when she left. But I thought that they had give it to them for historical. But I don't know.
Were you living in McCurtain in the 1920s?
We moved down here in 1920, in September 1920.
Moved to Spiral.
Uh-huh.
Then you wasn't there when the Bureau of Indian Affairs built the houses for the Choctaws?
They were working on that, but they never had got any built yet.
Well, all the Choctaws I've talked to refers to it as the Choctaw Reservation.
Yes.
Is that what they referred to it
That's
as in those days?
Yes. Choctaw Reservation.
Where was that at from McCurtain, from the city limits?
Well, I believe it was more southwest. I guess you'd call it back in towards Stigler. But I don't know how much they built or what it looked like because we moved and came down here.
How come you moved to Spiral?
Well, I guess that's because he wanted to change jobs. He had a brother living down here. Redvine wanted a grocerman, and that's what my husband was, and he took the job, and we just come down here to live. And that was during the beginning. Maybe the war had been going on a couple of years. Because after we got down here, well, he had to go and register. So, been quite a little while.
Did you ever go out to the spiral mounds while they were digging them?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, they've got a lot of things out there, and a lot of them have been carried away and took them to Muskogee and Enid, Tahlequah, and Norman. But they are requested to bring them all back. And I have a grandson that works for the government there as well as teach school in Kansas City. And he says that it will be something worthwhile and something to go see when they all get through doing what they're requested to do. But it's a nice place, and they have a large building and just all kind of things in there.
Well, do you have any more questions?
Do you remember Sidney White?
Sidney White. The name sounds familiar. What did he do?
He lived in Spiral for a long time. I'm not sure what he worked at, but he made sticks. He had worked for the Folsom family in his young years. I thought maybe it was part of your family.
You might have, because the name is familiar. Papa made those Indian ball bats where they were long stem things, you know, with a curl on the end of them. And you have your ball there, I'll throw it up and catch it, knock it away. I went to one of them ball games one time. Boy, they sure knew how to handle them too.
How's that ball game organized?
Oh, gee. I wish I could tell you everything you asked me, but I can't.
Do they still play the ball game?
In some places they do. Now that Robert Hollis, what's his name?
Hollis Roberts.
Hollis Robert. He's having some ball games fixed so that they can all play ball. Just so many places I noticed in our little papers. I wrote him a letter one time. I told him he had too much on program, and he just had too much pleasure going on. And so many people needed houses. They needed their food. They needed the money for medicine and doctor bills. I said, divide it around. We don't get none down this part of the world. It all goes up the other way. I never did get no answer from it.
Do you remember Chief Belvin?
Yes.
What did you think of him?
Well, I liked him. He had his different reasons with us all, just like we do. But he had some good about him.
The people in Spiral seem to be awfully fond of Chief Gardner
They were.
before he died.
We like Gardner too. I really believe Gardner would have been better than Hollis. I don't believe Hollis is certain of himself, do you?
I'm not sure. I know Hollis, but I'm not sure. I can't answer that.
Well, I'm not either, but he's been here 3 times when he was campaigning. And I had quite a few people come. We all sat out on the front porch. He would contradict himself several times at each meeting. And Dale Cox, he was one of the men worked with him. He told him, he says, "You're talking too much." I don't know. He didn't bother him at all. He just kept on talking, rattling off, just right on. And my daughter says, "How many cattle do you have stored away up in Durant?" He says, "Dick Cox, you can answer that question." So he pulled out a little book and read a whole lot in it about the cattle and how much land they had and how much they were going to go ahead and make it larger and buy more cattle. She said, "Well, what are you going to do with them cattle?" Hollis says, "We're going to sell them and use the money for the Indians." She said, "I don't get none of it." He said, "Well, you will." They rawhide him pretty much down here. I thought he would lose his office, but he didn't. We're so far down this way, they don't pay us much attention.
Well, anything else? Have you heard any stories about the old ways of the Choctaw?
Oh, I don't guess I have.
Do you have an Indian name?
No.
When did they stop using the Indian names, the Choctaws?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that no more than you do.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes. I've enjoyed you very much.
Thank you.
You more than I do. They're older.
What are their names?
Well, one of them is a Moore. Sid Moore's wife. And the Wards lives out about Scullerville. They're old people, sure enough. McCurtain.
Does she still live in Spiral?
She still lives in Spiral.
When's that McCurtain home going to be finished that they're restoring?
The last letter I got from Earl Metcalf said that there's no funds to. The outside is completely replicated, but the inside they haven't done anything to it. So it's just standing.
"Are you Allie Mae?" I said, "Yes, I am. What do you want?" "Well, I just want to talk to you a minute." I said, "All right, I'm her." I didn't know what he was going to ask me. I thought maybe he was going to give me a job. So he says, "Tell me how to spell your last name." I said, "Now listen, I put my name on the outside of the envelope and I put it twice on the inside of the letter. You ought to be able to spell it." "Well, we do, but we don't know whether you made the letters right or not." And I said, "Well, I did. You look at it again." So he said, "All right," and he spelled it. I said, "Now, I know my writing wasn't good like it ought to be, but I've had 2 strokes and I do well to write it all." So I spelled it for him. He said, "Well, that's the way your letters are." I said, "Well, all right, thank you. Is that all you want?" "Yes, that's all." Ain't that so?
I was going to ask one more question about medicines that you or your mother used to use.
That mother used to we brought home?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. lots of Indian medicine, herbs, and tea they made out of leaves and roots, you know, and sassafras tea. Y'all ever drink any of it? Boy, that's good. And
What kind of roots or leaves would they use in the medicines?
well, Mother used a slipper alum bark. You all seen them? Alum trees, you know, but the bark was slick.
Yeah.
And they made a fever tonic out of that.
How'd they make it?
Well, they took the black bark off and just used the white part of the bark, and they'd put it on, boiled it so much, and then put a little dash of salt in it so it wouldn't sour, I suppose. Because them days we didn't have ice and everything to help you take care of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember every time we'd get sick, Papa would go and get some slipper alum bark. Mama would make a little bit of tea. And she made lots of sassafras tea. And these old red pokeberries, they made them and doctored cuts and sores and bites with that, you know.
They just use the juice out of the berry straight, or what?
Yes, you could do that, or you could put them in a little hot water and mash them. And then you just got your juice to strain out.
Mm-hmm. What would you use for fever?
That's sassafras. No. That's slick alum.
Okay. What about whooping cough?
What?
Whooping cough. What would you?
Oh my. What did they use for whooping cough? Well, I know one thing. Papa always kept whiskey on the place. He didn't drink, but he always kept whiskey for medicine. Everybody did them days. And he'd make a toddy with sugar, add a little hot water to it. And we kids would drink that, and it'd help our cough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there wasn't much medicine you could buy either. And there wasn't very many people particularly settled them days. But what was, everybody knew each other. It was good to help you if you needed help. Papa made caskets for nearly everybody that died.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I learned how to quilt. Quilt the cotton together, you know, and cloth between them to line the caskets with.
You still quilt?
Yes, up till about 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I stick my fingers more than I quilt. I just can't do it.
Mm.
Stroke just jerks my hands and arms. I like to quilt.
Okay. Well, ma'am, thank you.
Well, I gone off again and go back home the third time. I could just lay him alone.
How come you kept running off?
He just didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
How often does Spiral have their council meetings now?
Every week. On Tuesday nights, I believe.
Ever get to Stigler?
Been quite a while since I've been in Stigler. They tell me Stigler's going down. What's the matter? It's not as busy as it used to be.
I don't know.
Is it because they moved the highways? Didn't they do something to the highway and took it away from going through Stigler?
Didn't the courthouse burn down?
No. That burned.
Oh, I knew something burned in Stigler.
The new shopping center's taking a lot of people out of downtown Stigler.